Hello. If you've been following the series through the shorts, this might be your first long-form video, so welcome. Alright, let's jump in. So in Rainy Decay, my sweaterweather remake, there are two sections that are fully dependent on random triggers. First one's pretty easy to explain, so I'll start there. Basically, there are three areas where you'll either get a toggle orb or a triple spike. This section isn't meant to be very difficult, it's more of a subtle intro into the concept of random triggers that becomes important later in the memory. You can actually see this in action if you compare day 14 to day 15. The click patterns are different because they're randomized. And yeah, both of these parts are an absolute pain in the ass to bot because they're randomized. Now, as I mentioned earlier, on to the more complicated part, the breakable block maze. Here's a quick clip for reference. So you probably noticed that the paths in the maze change. That's kind of the whole point of the maze. But this one works differently. It's not like the maze at the end of the Silent Club step. It's more inspired by the wave maze near the end of the Art of the Blade. So let me explain. In the Art of the Blade, there are, I think, 3 points in the level where you need to pay close attention to visual cues. Those cues determine the correct path at the end. If you've seen WizKid's breakdown of it, you'll know what I mean because he explains it very well. I'll link his video in the comments because, as I said, he does a very great job of explaining how it works, even though it was a Victor video. In that level, each visual cue can be a different color, and that creates 64 possible paths. I always thought that that concept was really sick, but way too hard to use in a regular level if I wasn't aiming for it to be List Demon. So I made a nerfed version. In Rainy Decay, there are 8 breakable blocks jumps, in each one going either up or down. Throughout the level, you'll see random arrows. These arrows give you hints for which route to take through the maze. So, the first arrow is at 11% during the mini wave, and the second arrow is at 12% during the short cube intermission before the first drop. Depending on what those first two arrows show, you can eliminate some paths right away. So if the first arrow is up, you'll need the third arrow to narrow it down. If arrow 2 is up, you're on path 91. If arrow 2 is down, you're on path 67. If the first arrow is down, then the second arrow directly tells you the path. Now, if the path wasn't determined by the first 3 arrows, you'll need the rest. The third arrow is inside the spider section at 31%. If the arrow combo is up, 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 you're on path 69. If the arrow combo is up, up, down, you're on path 65. Still not in one of those paths, you'll need the last few. The fourth arrow is at 53, and the fifth and sixth arrows both appear at 73, with the fifth being the top and the sixth being the second in order of the triple arrows. If the bottom arrow of the triple is up, then you're on path 63, which means that you're going to alternate up or down throughout the entire memory. If it's down, then you're on path 93, which means that you drop 1 at the end of the memory. Finally, the last arrow at 89, which is literally like 1% before the memory, is just used for double checking before the memory section because, again, this isn't supposed to be as hard as the Art of the Blade, and this one's just kind of a reassurance. You don't have to have it, or I didn't have to have it, but I felt like it was a good addition. But yeah, thanks for supporting the series and watching me slowly shift gameplay style with just personal preference and viewer feedback. See you in the next one. Adios.